Hello, everyone, and welcome to Godot Community. I'm Lillian Gina Quinones, and I'm your high school theater PLC leader. Today, we're talking about end of the year projects. So, how are you going to prepare your classroom and your students or your drama club for the end of the school year? I'd like to start by posing a few guiding questions. And the reason I do this is because I think a lot of what we receive in the form of professional development can often feel prescriptive, especially for those of us who are highly artistic. So I wanted you to kind of have some room here at the beginning to think about what your personality is, what your kind of creative edge is, and what you want to create at the end of the school year. My first question for you is what's important for you? What's important for your students? And what's important for all of you as a collective inside of this world that you've built over the course of the school year? What now do you want to do as you reach the end, right? Do you want to tell a particular story, or do you want to hone a particular skill, or do you just want to have a ton of fun? Right? Those are all things to ask yourself. The other question is, what's your personal bandwidth? What can you realistically handle in a way that brings you so much joy and makes you feel alive and causes the students to kind of catch on, right? Because at this time of the year, so often we feel like we're dragging ourselves and dragging our kids to the finish line that if we do something that is genuinely exciting, right, and that kind of fits inside of our own personal bandwidth, we're going to be a lot more successful. What's the level of your students' motivation, right? And then in what ways do you have to kind of meet them where they are so that you can get them to where they need to go? Do you want your project to be big? Do you want it to be exciting? Do you want it to be quiet and reflective? Do you want it to be more performative, more showcase type? Or do you want it to be scholarly? Do you want to do a research project or a paper or something that kind of helps them tie up all of the information they've learned over the year, or even writing an original play or something like that? What do you want it to look like? Do you want it to be easy? And I wrote yes. That is a valid option. Not so easy that it doesn't fit in the standards for the grade level that you're teaching, but easy in the sense that it feels not like work. That's totally okay and 1,000,000% acceptable. So take a little screenshot of the guiding questions and use them to help with your planning. I'm going to give you, let me move this. Okay. I am going to give you 3 examples today, none of which you should feel like you necessarily have to use, but maybe they can help be a starting point for your own creative juices to start flowing. The first one is a showcase. Like, showcase? Yes, please. Always a good idea. The reason I love a showcase is because you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So you can pull from what you've done all year, or you can rehearse new pieces, or you can kind of do a hodgepodge of both, right? So who would be in a showcase? This is a really lovely way to connect all of your classes and also kind of bring in your thespian and drama club and do one big thing, as opposed to multiple productions for all 6 classes or 8 classes that you teach. You can do one thing where each class is kind of bringing a little piece of what they've learned. You know, maybe one of your classes is doing a dance number, a musical theater dance number. Maybe one class is doing a collection of scenes from a play. Maybe one class is doing monologues. And all of those can come together for a one-night showcase. That's, of course, assuming that you're doing something in person. You can also, this also really lends itself to virtual platforms should we need to do that in these next coming months and years. So that's food for thought. All cast members, if you wanted to pull those folks in from, oftentimes we're having people from other departments or that are not necessarily in our classes be part of our shows. This is a nice way to keep them involved, right? And continue to recruit students into the program for the following year. What would you include in a showcase? So monologues and scenes from class projects or previous stage productions from this year, songs from this year's musicals, excerpts from original student plays. So if you have a dramatic writing class, you can have readings, just like super bare bones, music stands on the stage, reading or concert style type of thing. Nothing where you have to put up a huge set or anything like that, but a few light cues, a few music stands, some microphones, and students just showing all of the things that they've worked on this year. This is also a really nice opportunity for your tech kids to do tech or design presentations. So if you have like a projector screen and or a projector and a projector screen, and you have a little section of your showcase that is presentations, little mini, like 3 or 4 minute presentations from your tech students, that's a great way to showcase them as well. When do you want to do this? Anytime you want, my friend. Anytime you want. Originally, my answer to my own question was going to be sometime in May. Well, you may want to do this sometime in April. Or you may want to do this all the way at the end of the school year. It really depends on your program. It depends on your school and when the most convenient time is. But I think the important thing to consider with this type of end of the school year showcase is that it's kind of cumulative, right? So you get to see the growth that your students have made towards the end of the year. And it's one last performance opportunity, especially for students who maybe didn't get a chance to be featured in some of your shows throughout the school year. This is a nice moment to bring them to the forefront and give them an opportunity to shine. So, showcase. That's my first idea. My next idea is journals and portfolios. This is a little bit more, well, a lot more reflective, intrinsic, can be kind of quiet unless you have a portfolio presentation in front of an audience or in front of a group of peers that happens at the end. But I am a big fan of journals and portfolios because reflection is powerful. Reflection, especially after a year like this one where everything has been so different and we haven't been able to feel performance in the same ways that we have felt it before, and so many of our theater students, I always say in Lady Gaga's, I live for the applause, right? I'm a performer at heart. I love an audience. I love an audience. And, all of the virtual stuff has challenged that. Having to have our houses at half capacity has challenged that. So this year especially, but any other year, reflection is super powerful because it helps students take inventory of what they've learned and accomplished. And if, in the case of several of my students, and especially in my advanced classes, they wrote original plays this year, and it's something that we hadn't really dug into because we were so production and performance oriented before the pandemic that kind of sitting down and working that other piece of our creative energy at first was uncomfortable, but then was so beautiful because now we have all of these original works and students have found that they're talented in this area of writing and creating, and it's just really nice for them to think back on what they've done and be able to reflect on that. A couple of things to think about as you're considering journals and portfolios. You want to start the journal process early. I usually set it up at the very beginning in August. So I provide a consistent journal format throughout the school year and frequent opportunities for them to journal so that when we get to this last journal of the school year, it's something that they already have practiced doing. So the next thing is to include a thought-provoking prompt. It can be a prompt, a general prompt that they're always answering the same prompt with every entry, or you can provide a new prompt with each entry. Give students time to share and process in a safe and trusting space. This is obviously totally optional depending on what your student community feels and looks like in your classroom. I find that when I give them a forum for sharing, my theater kids like to talk. I would probably guess that yours do also. So it's a nice time for them to share like things they've learned about themselves, things they've learned about our medium, things they've learned about their ability to produce work and all of that. And sharing that with each other can be really powerful because they find common ground with their peers. Portfolios, now moving from the journal to the portfolio. A portfolio is the journal plus videos or other work samples that students can share with classmates or an audience. In one of my assessment videos, I believe it's assessment for the theater classroom, I talked about getting an extra set of eyes on student portfolios. I think this is a really powerful tool to have an outside evaluator look at your students' portfolios and give them feedback. At this part of the school year, you can create this ending event where students get to share their portfolios with each other, or they share their portfolios with an audience of people. You know, I think this may not be you. I will speak from the first person. I worry all the time about being boring. I worry that, parents or families or fellow teachers or students are not going to want to come see something unless it's got a whole bunch of bells and whistles. And more I've learned that people want to come and support their children, their friends, and they actually think that what we do is awesome. So I would not shy away from having a portfolio presentation like a day, a 1 hour or a 90-minute show type event where you've got the projector up and you've got students talking about the different things that they have learned and done. You can, like I talked in the other section, also do something like this virtually. But this is also a great moment for your techies to get a chance to shine, because portfolios, of course, with the design stuff, are going to be a really rich opportunity for them to share some of the amazing things that they've been able to do all school year, not to mention that these portfolios then become part of what they're submitting for college applications. or professional opportunities should they continue to be theater makers after high school. So it's a really, really, really great practice for our students to start young. All right, so that's journals and portfolios. Great. My last idea for you, my friends, is a short film festival. Oh, short films are so much fun. I'm not going to lie, they can be a lot of work. However, I will say this. iPhones are magical. And especially this time of year in Georgia, you get some really beautiful lighting. You can do almost everything with just your phone. Your students can do everything with just their phones. And this doesn't have to be fancy, right? Because we're not a film production class. We are a theater class. So it's about the creative process. It's about the story. It's about having fun with it. This is a great project for advanced acting, dramatic writing, film class, or a collaboration among all three. Here are some of the parameters that you could consider as you're laying out a short film project. First, before I say the parameters, is time is of the essence. So for short films, minimum, give them 4 weeks to get it done. I think shorter than that, they get overwhelmed. Too short of a turnaround, you're not going to get quality work. So I would say about halfway through that last quarter, you give them their project rubric and all of that so that they have enough time to get it done. Okay, so 3 to 5 minutes is ideal. Longer than that, too long. Shorter than that, they're not going to get, a good chunky like beginning, middle, and end, right? Specify genre and the specific elements that you want them to cover. You can give everybody the same thing, or if you have a class that's not really big, if you're doing this with an advanced class that maybe you have 15 students or 7 or 8 students, whatever number of students you have, you can give each one of them something different to kind of play around with. You can either assign their genre and elements, or you can let students choose. Collaborative or independent? That, I should have put a big question mark next to it. I tend to lean towards giving them independent projects because I think the stakes are higher that way, and I think every student wants to be in control of their own product. They will usually and inevitably find folks to collaborate with, and then they've chosen those collaborators. A student may decide, I'm going to be the director on this project, and I'm going to go find my friends that I love working with to be in my movie, as opposed to feeling trapped to the 3 people in their group, and they have to make that work. So I find that, especially towards the end of the school year, kind of giving them that sky's the limit, this is your thing, you don't have to feel trapped in any way. It makes it a lot of fun for them. So I kind of lean towards that. But you may have a group that's super tight-knit, and that happens a lot in the theater, like they're all best friends. Then collaborative might be best. So it's up to you and what works best in your classroom space. And then original work is always the best way to go. So this could be a culminating project after a dramatic writing unit, or maybe there's a dramatic writing class at your school that will give you the scripts, and then you can use them for this project. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but I do find that that original work is best. There's always caveats to that, right? You can use scenes or scripts or sides that you find online as well, and then do some creative things with that. Again, up to you. Finally, because I believe that we need to I believe that we need to make a big hoopla about everything, because honestly, everything in the theater is just magic. So plan a fun screening event on a big screen with popcorn, wherever, in your classroom, at your theater, in the parking lot of your school, whatever. Have people come and see it. The more your students know that people are going to put their eyes on their work, the better job they're going to do. And then, here's a side note. These short films can then be used for other stuff. So if you're doing this, for example, at the end of the school year, you could submit one of these for the Short Film Festival for ThesCon in the fall. Or they can submit for other student film festivals that, happen throughout the country, honestly, or for scholarships. Or, going back to the portfolios, now they have material for their acting reels. Acting reels are amazing. Or they have material for their tech or design portfolio. So the more the merrier, because by the time they get to senior year, again, should they choose to do this going forward, now they have this whole list of creative work that they can hand over to colleges and say, look what I already know how to do. Okay. All right. All right, a few things to keep in mind before we wrap this up today is get the kids excited about these projects earlier. Ideally at the beginning of the quarter. You may even decide that you can do it at the beginning of the school year, but then you have to remind them at the beginning of the quarter because they forget. But if you know where you're going, you can include this stuff in your syllabus, and it's something that they know they're working towards. And if it's like the most exciting thing, kind of going back to our personal bandwidth in my first slide and student motivation, I think that if we're building towards the most exciting, culminating event, it has the potential to cure that end of the school year inertia that sometimes hits us in the gut. Projects should be highlighting student work throughout the year, not reinventing the wheel. So that's another thing, especially with this time of the school year, is let's draw from what we've already done, right? As opposed to let's start rehearsing a whole new musical and put together this, let's cut it, let's make it an hour, let's do it 55 minutes, and let's do a 1-hour show before the end of the school year. That is exhausting. Nobody wants to do that. But do I want to go back and pick up that fabulous solo that I had back in March and reprise it and do it as part of the showcase? Yeah, that sounds like a lot more fun, right? So, those are some of the things to think about. And then what are your opportunities for sharing? I've written 3 bullet points here. I think the bullet points are probably more extensive than this, but you can keep it simple or you can go all out. Whatever, again, is important to you and whatever you think is the best for your program, but you can do something as simple as all the classes got together today and we all had this mutual sharing. And then, everybody, to bring back my popcorn, everybody ate popcorn and we ate candy and we all had a great time. Boom, clap, we're done, right? Or you can have a public performance and invite the families and it's a big culminating event. Or this can be all online content. And now I will say that online content should not, I strongly believe that it should not be a substitute for theater, but I do enjoy the opportunity that it has afforded us as theater makers. And I think I'm going to bring it with me to post-pandemic land as an option and as a way to reach people who don't often have the opportunity to come to my theater. So that's something also to think about. All right, so let us recap. I'm going to go all the way back. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, I gave you a couple of guiding questions. You thought about what you think is important and what kind of vibe you want for your end of the school year project. Then I gave you 3 ideas. A showcase, yes please, journals and portfolios, and a short film festival. And finally gave you a couple of extra things to keep in mind. All right, thank you very much for attending or watching our end of the year projects webinar today. Please join us on Godot Fine Arts PLC and invite your teacher friends. This content will be available for a while and we want you to join the discussion. We want your teacher friends to join the discussion. And if you have any questions, please feel free to respond and we will be in communication. Thank you so much and have a good one. Bye.